Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, we're still with the Ooni of Ife and the Olori, or should I say Olori's saga. This time we're coming at it from an Eastern perspective, and I have to warn you, just a bit of a spoiler, there's an undertone of revenge to the narrative that I'm about to bring you. So there is an undertone of revenge, or of somewhat of a clap back. If revenge is too strong a word, at least a clap back. And this is on behalf of the author of this piece. So the person writing this piece, of course, had some carryovers of some whatever it is, gripe that she had with the Ooni, which is now using this article to flesh out. So that's the backdrop. So have that as a backdrop. As guys, I bring you this. One king, two Oloris, and counting. So that is how it is titled, One King, Two Oloris, and counting. Onoshe Nwabuikwu is the name of the person who wrote this piece. So apologies if I butchered that name, but here it is. And this is from a third person perspective. So this is reading this woman's narration of her commentary on the saga going on in the Ife Palace. I was about to say the Oyo Palace, but indeed the Ife Palace. So here it is. Last week, Thursday, December the 23rd, 2021, Prophetess Naomi Shilekunola announced her separation, or is it divorce, from the 51st Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi Ojaja II. Until that announcement, since their married 3 years ago, she was known and addressed as Queen Naomi Morenike Shilekunola Ogunwusi. Now, she says, I, at this moment, announce that I shall no longer be referred to as wife to the Ooni of Ife or as Queen of Ile-Ife, but as Queen of the people and mother of my adorable prince. This announcement, as can be imagined, has generated and still is generating hot debate. For those who find Queen Naomi's announcement untraditional, it is not that out of character for the couple. Apart from the Ooni being young and upwardly mobile at 47, the couple were very active on social media circles. The Ooni and his queen were also on social media. I guess it is only appropriate to break the news on social media. So she continues. Let me just scroll down. Yeah, so she does continue. Ordinarily, I wouldn't be interested in this story, at least not enough to write about it here. But I haven't been able to escape the commentaries about the erstwhile Queen of Ile-Ife's announcement, from unknown bloggers to Nigeria's mainstream media. A pattern is beginning to form. The more unknown and obscure the medium, the more the accusations aimed at the 28-year-old Queen Naomi or her mother, Deaconess Funmilayo Ogunseyi. The usual questions query Prophetess Naomi's decision to marry the Ooni in the first instance, considering that the Ooni, according to Yoruba history, is the spiritual head of the Yoruba people. Who can forget the picture of the then new queen walking over a pool of some animal blood into the palace in the early days? So naturally, the questions have been, what did she hope to achieve? How could light and darkness mix? How can she say she didn't know what she was getting into? There are even less charitable comments. For instance, a female YouTuber, won't bother to name her, blamed Prophetess Naomi's mother for not taking a back seat and competing for the limelight with her daughter. The story is that the former queen's mother moved in with her into the palace. What has this got to do with the issue at hand? Meanwhile, speaking of mainstream media, I took particular notice of trending with Oji Okwe on Arise News on December the 24th, which had the headline, Ooni of Ife's wife announces split following the monarch's suicidal story. That was followed by the in-story caption, Ooni of Ife narrates suicidal tendencies. Someone was obviously trying to be creative, but suicidal tendencies are wrong for what the story was alluding to. There was a story where the Ooni at an event was giving advice and encouraged people to have hope. He then talked about how he nearly committed suicide or words to that effect. This was because a project he had taken a bank loan for went sour and he lost everything. How is this narrating suicidal tendencies? Anyhow, the other reason I had more than a passing interest in the story of another Olori living, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, is that the first Olori who left the Oni was Olori Wuraola, who has since reverted to her pre-Olori name of Zainab Otiti Abano from Benin City, Edo State. So now this is where I said this is a revenge mission, and this lady now serving that dish cold. So this is where her prejudice comes in, the writer of this piece. So it takes over from this point. As an Edo woman myself, I felt some of the embarrassment that resulted from Olori Wuraola's exit in 2017. After 17 months of marriage, former Queen Wuraola married the Oni in 2016 after his coronation in December 2015. She had a lot to say on Instagram, where else, about the allegations of infidelity against her, even though it may not have been loudly expressed, but I felt there was a general belief that if she had been from the right tribe, that tribe being Yoruba, things may have turned out differently. Well, but let me just pause for a moment there because this is now this lady impugning her own prejudices on that narrative. Nobody said this Wuraola character came from the wrong or right tribe. Everybody knew she was from Benin. The Ooni of Ife knew she was from Benin before he married her. So if he, as the paramount Yoruba spiritual leader at least, if not the Oba, because a lot of people would dispute that is not the paramount Oba, that is not even an Oba at all, because there's a school of thought that insists that the Ooni is not actually an Oba, but a spiritual leader, essentially an Ifa priest. But that is a different narrative for a different time. But as a foremost leading Yoruba monarch, if he felt marrying a non-Yoruba would be marrying lesser than, then he would not have taken her as a bride. And nobody, by my recollection, ever hinted at this lady being from Edo. So it is this lady's own maybe insecurities or prejudices that she's now impugning into this narrative. So I'll take it from the top of that paragraph again. Anyhow, the other reason I had more than a passing interest in the story of another Olori living Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi is that the first Olori who left the Oni was Olori Wuraola, who has since reverted to her pre-Olori name of Zainab Otiti Abano from Benin City, Edo State. As an Edo woman myself, I had felt some of the embarrassment that resulted from Olori Wuraola's exit in 2017 after 17 months of marriage. Former Queen Wuraola married the Ooni of Ife in 2016. After his coronation in December 2015, she had a lot to say on Instagram, where else, about the allegations of infidelity against her then. Even though it may not have been loudly expressed, but I felt there was a general belief that if she had been from the right tribe, that tribe being Yoruba, things may have turned out differently. For what it's worth, Olori Naomi is Yoruba and the right tribe. Now that tribe is not the issue, some people have jumped on their religious differences. So again, let me pause there for a moment. the Olori Naomi, she knew the Oni was an Ifa priest. I mean, the whole planet and even the whole galaxy, they all know what the role of the Oni is. They call the Oni the Arole Odua. So essentially, the person that has or custody and charge of all the deities in Yoruba land. So you don't get more clearer than that. And being a satiated and a steady Yoruba woman from Ondo State, the Olori knew perfectly who and what the Oni was. And the Oni equally knew and understood what the Olori was. She paraded herself as a prophetess, and she was a venerated and a celebrated one. So they both knew equally who each other was. So quite why this lady is trying to paint a narrative that does not cohere. This is really for reasons of her own personal prejudices, I suspect. But we carry on. Now that tribe is not the issue, some people have jumped on their religious differences. However, the one thing that remains constant is how much some commentators are ready to blame Queen Naomi. Hers makes Oni's third marriage fail. His first child, 27-year-old Princess Adeola Ogunwusi, is by Omolara Olatunbosun, whom he wasn't married to. They were teenage parents. I stumbled on a story about Miss Olatunbosun's statement correcting Oni's claim about him being a single father. A couple of weeks ago, on his Instagram and Facebook pages, he once again wrote about how he was a single father to my daughter, a mendacious claim that has no basis in fact but has gone on for too long. I want to put it on record now in public that there is not an iota of truth to that claim, and I challenge him to prove me wrong. Ogunwusi was never present in Adeola's life for the first 10 years of her growing up, which makes the single father narrative shocking, annoying, and disrespectful to hear by all who know the truth of the story. I, Omolara, took care of my daughter physically, financially, and emotionally with the moral support of my mother and my siblings. I was a pregnant teen, but he was nowhere to be found, and I bore the responsibility for our child and paid the physical and social cost of raising her alone in my mom's house. Ogunwusi saw Adeola only for 5 minutes at the hospital when she was born. The next time he saw her was when she was already 4 and then 10 years ago, respectively. As for Princess Adeola, she speaks highly of her father. Does any of this mean anything? Everyone is going to have to draw their conclusion. So we go on to the last paragraph. Yet, in all this, people are not talking enough about how many traditional rulers are becoming demythified as they focus on being celebrities. Back in the day in Edo State, when someone says you will see Oba, it means you were going to suffer. You are going to have a tough time achieving whatever the task was. You are going to have a tough time achieving whatever the task was. This was because it was difficult or almost impossible to see the Oba king back then. The Oba didn't make public appearances, and it would take something serious to cite him. Now, Obas, Ezes, and Emirs are toast of parties. They even have a social media presence as they want to be seen and treated like regular celebrities. And we, the people, are so ready to accept their opulent lifestyles, many of which can't be justified. It doesn't matter if the Oba is wealthy. It should bother everyone concerned when kings live in opulence surrounded by abject poverty. So she ends it off on a moral tone, but the totality of it seems to me somewhat like a hatchet job. So this is a woman that has been nursing what we will colloquially in Nigeria refer to as bad belle against the Ooni of Ife. So she's been nursing a gripe against the Ooni of Ife for years and years for reasons of the Oba dumping her clanswoman, and she then felt that aspersions were being casted on her clan for reasons of her being an Edo woman and the Ooni, of course, being a Yoruba king. This, of course, is entirely a narrative playing out in our own head, but nevertheless, she has now brought that to the fore. So what are you making now of this person's just presentation that there was a tribal undertone one to the split between the Oni and the erstwhile wife Wuraola from Edo State? So that is really where I wanted to focus on, and that is really why I am bringing you this piece. So she speaks to that, and then she leverages that to throw at the space of Naomi to then point in the direction of the Ooni of Ife to infer that the Ooni of Ife has issues. But is she right in that inference that the Ooni of Ife has issues? Because at 47, 3 marriages down, baby mamas everywhere, that is not really the commendation that we want as a recommendation to the young Yoruba space that will be looking up to him. Him being a 47-year-old man, so still relatively young, and him being somebody like that is sort of I think hip is the word that they use. So somebody that is au fait with contemporary times, a social media sort of Oba type person, so very much in the mix. But this lifestyle that is now living, averaging 3 years of marriage and then going on to the next, is this really the sort of template that we want to present as the Yoruba public face? Come tell me thoughts about all this in the comment section. So I'll leave it here. Carry the conversation on within the comment section, but here I say peace.